Hey everybody, this is Dark Guardsman. We're back with another video. So I know we just worked on the AIs and got that stuff kind of toyed around with and getting a little bit more improvement on that direction. But I kind of want to work on at least what will kind of be the checkpoint system for the game. Now this is actually going to be a code part because I'm going to have to do a little bit of research into how to code it before I actually go and do it. But the way the checkpoints are going to work in the game, at least this is the part where me and Grog have been talking back and forth and kind of been figuring this out, is that we're going to have like a convoy follow you around. So you're going to have this like truck, maybe a couple of trucks. I still haven't figured out exactly how we're going to do it, but I don't want there to just be this checkpoint where it's a magical kind of position where you just return to when your character gets killed or the map resets or whatever. So the concept I want to do, and this kind of actually makes my life a little bit easier too, is we have this vehicle and it goes up to the checkpoint. So once you get a checkpoint, then the vehicle just appears and either drives up or just teleports, because teleporting might be the easiest way to do this. And it's probably how we're going to code it first, is get teleport working, where the vehicle just appears and just moves around. And really it's just going to be a destination set thing. It's going to be like, hey, your destination was here, now you're there. And when your character dies, he'll go back to this point. The map won't reset, which is what I'm thinking how to handle this. So we're going to handle it where you get so many lives in the level. And those lives are your spare tanks, is a way to put it. So the concept will be is that your tank blew up, you escaped, you managed to get back to the checkpoint, and you popped another tank off your convoy. So you have more tanks to go with, you have more crew, you have more different things. We'll probably even leave your dead tank in the level, so you'll be able to pass your dead body and go, hey, I died there. Anyways, we need to make some assets for this, and we're not making it on the texture sheet here, so we're going to need a new sheet. And I actually haven't. This is the funniest thing about me using GIMP. I almost never use this button. I almost always make my textures in Paint, export them, and then do everything else. And my creation window is up there, but it was like almost not even on the screen. Is there even like... There really isn't a good way to do this, so I'm just going to create a canvas. Am I gonna be able to delete the white colors and just, yeah, okay, that's, I need to actually, I want to color to alpha. There's a way to actually add it to this. Transparency, add alpha channel, here we go. And then we select the white and delete it, there we go. We are gonna need a backdrop. So actually, let's undo that, and we're just going to bucket feed this. I want to create a, no, I don't want black. There's a reason why you almost always see when I'm working on textures, I have this really weird color backdrop. And the reason behind it is that I need to be able to see what I'm doing, but I need the color to be so beyond what I'm using that I would not mistake the background for something I'm actually doing. So we get a background, we need a new layer. Now we have to kind of think of what we're going to want this vehicle to look like and how big we're going to want it. Well, actually the size really doesn't matter, because when we actually get to the game here, I can zoom out. This tank right here is about it's not a 400 exactly, but like the texture sheet is like a 400 by 400. But on your screen, this is the size of about a penny. Actually, it's probably smaller than a penny. I don't have a way to show this, but I'm going to dig a penny out of one of my jars here. Hopefully this doesn't sound horrible on the microphone, because I actually want to know. It's about half the size of a penny. So that's a really small little part of the screen. You gotta actually imagine, like, if I maximize this on play and hit play, it's be slightly bigger, but this is like a sizable monitor when you think about it. Some people actually have smaller monitors than this. Actually, when you get this to full screen, it is the size of a penny. The size of a US penny for those who aren't in the United States. I don't know if there's another country that actually calls their coins penny, because I know in like Britain it's like things like pence and stuff. I'm not familiar with currency and how it works, but we have small units, so we're going to want our supply. We want our supply vehicle 1 to be pretty sizable. 2, we got to figure out, do we want to draw stuff on it? And then 3, do we want more than one vehicle? Do we want to deploy it too? Because what we could have it do is we could have a vehicle drive up, stop, then kind of do a transformation into like a auto body shop almost, would be a way to think about it. Is it one actually something I might want to do is kind of talk about this. This concept of way we're doing this partially comes from, I think, MechWarrior 3. See if we can find it. I don't want to show me. So there's this vehicle right here. It is. I think at least this is what I'm thinking of. It's been so long since I've played these games. I think it actually might be MechWarrior 4 I'm thinking of, not 3. But yeah, so you had... God, man, these graphics look old. So you had these kind of vehicles. This is actually not what's from the game, but this is kind of the concept I'm thinking of. I don't actually want it to look like a tank, though, because we don't want everything in this game to be a tank. We actually want some variety. But what you would have is you would have some kind of support vehicle that would look kind of like this. That would be following the player around and doing stuff. This actually is not too bad. This is kind of what I'm thinking of in terms of what I want to do. Not exactly this. Definitely not that. That's actually not... this is actually, I think, closer to the actual vehicle. Let's see if we can visit this. And we went to a board chat room, which we want to get off of. You never can find actual images to work with. Given I don't want to copy something one for one, because that's a great way to get sued, even though I definitely don't think I'm going to get sued by any of these companies. But I'm going to call that good enough. So we kind of know what we're looking for. So we want a big vehicle. I guess we're going to want to make it bigger than the tank, and the reason for doing this is we kind of want to emphasize that it's a large support vehicle. Something we're going to want to think about, and let's go ahead and open up one of the other levels, is that if we make it too big, we may have to give some consideration of redesigning levels. And this is actually not the level I want to load, but it's going to load it anyways for me because I double clicked it. This is actually a test level. So actually at this point is a test level. This is actually the proper level 3 that Grog's been working on. He basically told me at this point this level, the level 3 is actually finished. Once it loads, I'll show you the actual level. This is just, I don't know what we're going to do with this now. This was my attempt at level 3. It looks horrible. This is his level 3, and from what he told me, this is done. I don't believe him when he says that, though. I wonder if he hasn't pushed all of his commits to the repo, because I don't see a reasonable exit point. Unless he's thinking this is our exit point, but I think we need more work on this level. That's what's going to end up happening. I almost kind of want to fight through this level in reverse, actually. Because you gotta imagine if you actually spawned here and had to go through like all of this and go through this level backwards, it actually might work better, and I didn't want to do whatever I did. Actually, can you... Oh wow, you can select things? I didn't actually know that. Shows you a little actually know about this level, but one of the things I was actually wanted to show off with this is that if we make the vehicle too big, we actually have spots that are not too wide. Right now, like the tank, we can get about 5 tank links across this point. See if we can find a spot that's a little bit more cramped. 4 across that one. A couple spots only got 2 or 3. Okay, here we got a little bit like narrower spot over here. I'm not really seeing other spots that would be too much of an issue, but the concept of the reason I want to point this out is if you make the vehicle too big, if the player thinks about it too long, he'll go, wait, that vehicle is sizable. How did it get through that spot that I barely got through myself? You also get the other idea, like if we actually make the tank or the vehicle, for example, pathfind. So say, for example, you're traveling through the level and then you have this supply vehicle just moving up behind you, just creeping through the level, right behind you, like slowly going up. And you can actually go backwards and see it creep up between the level. If you actually made it legitly pathfind and actually collider box everything else for it, it might get stuck on some spots. So there's something to think about how big we want to make this. I'm going to probably just make it twice the length of the tank, which is a good thing we made this an 800 by 600. That gives us about twice the length. It does mean we're going to probably want to build this in sections. I don't know if we... Or I don't know if I want to spend a huge amount of time actually programming sections, because it wouldn't be too hard to do. But I don't know how we would go about it. Effectively what you could do is you just basically have a delayed turn. So if you make a turn with the vehicle, then its rear sections don't turn with it right away, and that gives you the illusion of delayed sections. when in reality it's just a render system. I actually might play with that. Actually sounds really fun. Let's get started. For example, let's go ahead and so if our player tank is like 400, I think 600 actually might be better. Okay, so we're gonna want to make this 600. So 600, and oh, we don't actually need to make it 600. Let's do 300. So I actually think the actual player tank is only actually 200 wide. And we will do this in sections. So we'll do this really quick here. And well, we don't want this too close. I'm gonna have to draw tires on this. So let's do 80. And we'll do 40 here. What I'm trying to do is actually just get a starting point, and then what we're going to do is just fill this in. And be like, hey, that's where our body is now. That looks really weird with the color scheme. And then I don't know if I actually want to layer this or if I just want to kind of toy around with it the way it is. I think toying around with it how it is will work. So we're gonna need to make this look like a truck. That's a good way to put it. So we're going to want to have some kind of shape. We're just gonna go ahead and get the tool out. I don't want to freehand this fully, but I think that would give me some good results at least. Well, I say that, and as soon as I go to freehand, I then remember the fact that my hands don't actually work properly. This is kind of where doing stuff in Paint actually does pay off. You know what, let's actually save this. Let's actually export as. And we're going to actually gonna want to just got a show in folder option. Show and explore. There we go. And then we can go at the asset level, textures, and this will go in the vehicle folder. That way we actually keep track of it, and we're going to want to make a new folder in here, and we're going to call this supply truck. It actually reminds me of a professor that used to teach, well actually I would say professor, teacher because it was like junior high, that actually taught me that you want to underscore your file names because their computers at the time had issues with spaces. I think it was actually like an issue with Apple computers because we were using like a 2000 something Apple computer that actually would crash if you had a space in your file name. It was not with everything either. It was like a couple applications that would crash. Anyways, we want to go back here and oh shoot, can't. Why does this not have? Well, luckily this is bookmarked here, or that would be a pain. Textures, vehicle, supply truck, and we're gonna call this body. Because we may put turrets on it, so I may want to go ahead and make another file called turrets and have like a gun on the top of it that would shoot mobs to get nearby. Although in reality, this thing isn't gonna have HP. At least I don't think about it. We could have a level that has a supply truck in it that it's not yours, that gets blown up, just for the fun of it. But we get that exported. I'm then going to close this, so discard changes. Then we're going to edit this in Paint because Paint is actually remarkably good at being able to do stuff like that and get shapes and stuff. That's the reason I actually like doing it, is I can get shapes. Actually, let's do that. That might be too sharp of an angle. That's not bad. It'll work. So we're gonna do that. And then what I can do with this, grab that, bucket feed. That gets me an angle in the front. What we're gonna do is we're just gonna mirror this when we're done. Because we know it's gonna, this is 300 wide, so we just have to go like 150 in and then copy and then mirror. Nah, that looks like crap. Run that across. Because that'll be like our hood. Well, no, maybe we'll put a window here. Just put some collars here just so I know what that's going to be. And then we can probably do like a radiator across this. This is actually not what this is going to look like. I'm just kind of, we're roughing it is what would be a good way to put it. We're trying to figure out what the shape is going to be. Because we're going to need to come up with some kind of shape. Because we're doing a top-down game, so what shape you pick actually matters a lot more than it does in a 3D game. So a 3D game, if you make a shape, you can kind of get away with something, but as soon as you start making a 2D game, particularly a top-down, because sometimes you can have a lot more options. Like if you do kind of a down at an angle game, like a Civilization games where you have like an angle, or you do like a Doom style game, not recent Dooms like the original ones, get a lot more with that. Okay, we got something. Let's go ahead and I want to mirror this just so we can get going. And the problem with actually doing that is I added some extra. We'll finish that piece and we'll kind of. There we go. You want this to be about 150? It doesn't really need to be perfect as long as we actually symmetrically mirror it to some regard. It'll work. So we copy paste that, and then we just want to flip horizontal. It's actually why I really do love paint. Is that you could kind of do stuff like this. Now the problem is I didn't actually mark where the 150 line was, but it doesn't really matter too much because we know that that should go like that, where you can't see that piece. Arrow keys are a thing too. So we got a shape now. This is where I can come in again and actually want to do that. Do that. Just do that really quick so I can, when I go to paint bucket, it actually fills in. So that'll be our windshield. Orange windshield maybe? I like orange better. Although by the time we actually get all the detail in here, orange may not work as well. Well, it actually reminds me, the player's tank is blue. We probably should keep some consistency. I don't know why we have a full export of this, but I'm going to grab like a big chunk of this, hit copy, then pop over here. Put that chunk in here, so I know what my stylization looks like. And we can actually see this is going to actually turn out to be pretty good for size. So we want to match the collars. Yeah, orange is going to work just fine. What we'll do is we'll put some like hexagon patterns in here, and this will look kind of futuristic by the time we're done. We do want to actually keep consistent with how the front of this looks. This has like, it's hard to notice, but basically there's a grain that goes on the front of the Lancer tank. So if you actually go here, so it's got like a grain. It's really meant to just kind of break up the silhouette a little bit. It's not really noticeable though. I got that overly detailed grill on here, but in reality, when you actually get down to, you don't notice it. Because that's what basically the tank looks like in game. That really is the problem with making assets for a top-down game, is you put a lot of detail into the artwork, and then you're never going to see this detail, and it really does make me wonder if I really should just be making really small assets, because the only time having really big detailed assets is going to matter is when you're on a 4K display, and when you're on a 4K display, you'll notice the pixel difference. Even if this is actually still only like that size in the middle of your screen, you'll see that, and I can kind of see the pixel even on a 1080p monitor. Although really calling this monitor 1080p really doesn't do it justice, because even though it renders for 1080p on the streaming software, this monitor is small. I got a monitor above it, it's only like 100 pixels larger, but like has twice the density of pixels, which actually does work really well. I still need to go through and actually detail this tank too, because I kind of want to color the barrels. Even if like you'll never see this work, I can go put this on my website and somebody go, oh, that tank looks amazing. That should be a really cool thing actually to do with a website, is to put this on here, and then as your cursor is going around the wiki looking at stuff, the turret would follow the cursor. It would be great. Extra work that would be completely unnecessary, but would be kind of awesome. Okay, let's get rid of that. Now that we did that, though, we kind of almost need to... Oh, one, I'm going to get rid of these grills. They look weird. We don't really have lines on the other tank, and I kind of want to keep consistent with the artwork of not having these like separation lines that you see in comic books. Oh, I don't want to go with that kind of detail though. So we want another collar. This isn't the color I'm actually going to use, but that kind of does separate out the fact. We're probably just going to mirror the side again when we're done. Maybe. I don't know. Let's grab this nice big dark black. Doesn't actually look better though, but I mean we're keeping almost with that consistency. But do we actually need to keep it consistent? That's actually an important point. Because this has those straight lines going on it, which works for a tank, but now we're on a truck that has a little bit more angular design to it. Trying to do, because if you do a straight line down like this, then it looks like crap. And if you want to keep with the angle, it looks like crap. What we almost want to do is that grill thing that we were doing originally. But we need to kind of incorporate it a little better. Actually, I'm only going to work on one side of this. That looks like crap. It's almost like when I was working on the artwork for ICBM one time. It just, everything I did just looked horrible. You don't really want to go into like pixel depth of this stuff. Because in reality, like if we zoom out once again, and this is going to be like probably that big on your screen, you're not going to notice this detail. It's a mistake I even make when making Minecraft mods a lot of times too, is that I'll put a lot of detail into a texture, and then reality of it is like when you actually get it in game and you start using it, nobody will notice the texture differences. It's one of those kind of like perfectionist type of things, like you go over detail just because you want to, not because you have to. What if we can actually undo this? There we go, that's actually nice. And then we go back to this line, grab that. At least I don't have as bad of OCD as I used to. This would be horrible. Because nothing is straight. It's okay. That just because I want to. Now what we can do, you could just fill this in. Let's say that's the midpoint. You know, that actually kind of looks cool. Okay, now we're just getting weird. It's almost got that kind of feel of welded armor plates, where you've put extra armor plates in the front of something. They don't pop up as much, but you can imagine if you had like some rivets here, it starts actually getting some detail that remarkably gives it some quality. It's hard to kind of explain what I'm seeing in my head. The problem is we have to mirror this now. Let's actually work on the rest of it. So the blue would be like the top is pretty much what this is going to be. I'm going to leave the black around the windshield, but then we're going to need to redo the rest of this. So let's grab this. We're going to want to darken this collar up, because we're using the collars to kind of give it more of a quality, that there's a separation between layers. That gives us our neatness to it. Grab this. I can feed those two. You know what? That actually doesn't look horrible. That's better. I'm gonna leave it even though it doesn't actually look that good. Weird thing about having black lines in your actual drawing is it actually does give you a lot more kind of separation of how things work. I don't know how to explain it. Actually, why am I rounding that corner? I'm going to mirror the other side. It helps your brain recognize the differences between things. Because now that we've got this, it's a lot harder to tell how this stuff separates. Especially if you're doing what I'm doing and working with a monitor that doesn't have really good color depth. This monitor has horrible color depth. Actually, I'm going to drag us to my other monitor just to look at this. Yeah, it doesn't help at all. Which, you know, is a good thing that I do have a really crappy monitor in this regard, because it is telling me that I need to actually change these colors. If they look too similar on a crappy monitor, then somebody who's got a really crappy monitor, it's going to look so similar that they're going to have trouble actually seeing the thing. I wouldn't say like completely incapable of seeing it, but it would be it'd be problematic. Still haven't figured out what my fascination was with blue when I started designing these. Like, I was working on the Lancer tank, I was like, you know what, we're gonna make it blue. And now pretty much all the units are now gonna be blue for the player. No particular reason why, it's just that's how it happened. It's like a completely difference between these two corners. I actually really like the fact that that line is not perfect. It gives them more character. I remember getting somewhere. It still looks like crap, but once again, once you zoom out, it looks less like crap because, I don't know, art style. No, I probably should have made a color palette before I do all this. A bit too late for that though. Oh, that's too close to that color. Can still kind of see it. You know what, let's grab the gray here. We'll read this with the gray. I can't draw a straight line to save myself. This is why I actually probably should get like a drawing tablet. Or convert one of my tablets I don't actually use into a drawing tablet, which actually might be more economical, considering I have drawing tablets I don't use. Well, I have tablets I have for reading that I don't use for anything anymore. That just looks bad. I miss the days when my eyesight used to actually be good enough where I could like draw without actually having to do what I'm going to do and zoom in. Or doesn't help the fact I think my glasses are all greased, smeared. I might be overthinking it when it comes to doing this. What I'm trying to basically do is make a wheel hub. We don't want it to be this like perfect thing, but we don't want it to like overdo the rounding. Especially since effectively I'm going to have to put a wheel below this, which we're going to do with another layer actually when I get this into the other program. Yeah, I think I need to make this actually blue. Let's try this blue. See, that looks better. Now we just gotta finish rounding it. So it actually looks round and not like this half attempt at round. This is usually why I actually hire artists to do this stuff for me. I can hire an artist later to come through here and actually make this look better. I think having a bit more or a bit less of a difference. Works better for this. Although, I look at the front of this, the only thing I could think is like the big AT walkers from Star Wars now. Wonder how we can fix that. One thing I kind of want to do is have... Wow, I actually drew a straight line. But like, yeah, I have like something like that in the front, which will give a little bit more unique-ishness to it. Especially if we come back in here and like grab a lighter color and pencil draw over it to give it something. I don't know what to really call that. It's detail. Let's see what this looks like when we zoom out. It's almost where I want to make my own paint program, just so I can have it like be defaultly zoomed out and you have like a preview over here what you're working on. You could be like drawing and then go, oh yeah, that's what it looks like, instead of actually zooming in and out. I know there's programs that already exist for this though, because I know somebody will definitely tell me that. Just pick a point and call it center is what we're gonna do. Just gonna draw a line right down the middle. I want to actually see how close I am at center on this. That'll be... Oh, dude, that is like... It's not perfect, but I almost completely nailed it. Watch this one not even being close after I get that one up there. Yeah, I can already tell it's not there. You work with pixel art enough in Minecraft that you actually end up recognizing when you're off. But to be honest, I don't care. So what we're going to do is we're going to grab it from here. Come over here because we're off like by 1 or 2 pixels. It really doesn't matter. And now we got to zoom out so we can actually copy and paste our work. Can I not keep a selection? This is why I use actual GIMP for doing all the detail work. So you can actually keep a selection. But the cool thing about having something like paint is that mirroring is not a pain in the ass. That doesn't look too bad. I think I need to straighten this out a little bit more, but honestly I kind of like it. It's not perfect, but it doesn't need to be. So about that distance, if you imagine that has like the trucks behind it, it would look pretty good. Anyways, I'm going to leave it off here because, or honestly, this is going to probably take hours to finish, and I'll just kind of, I don't know, fill stuff in as we go.